Hello everyone, welcome to Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am excited to share these cute projects with you that feature the Silhouette Scenes bundle. Now let me just pull over my catalog here so I can show you the layout in the catalog. This paper, this suite is just fantastic. So we have a bundle, a stamp set and dies. We have gorgeous DSP. We have some very, very cool embossing powder. We're going to use some of that today. And I gotta tell you, this paper is just fantastic. So I'm really going to showcase the DSP today. But I also want to show you the bundle. So, actually, let me get the projects out of the way for a second and pull in the bundle. So we have the stamp set, which has some really wonderful silhouette imagery, and then we have several sentiments, and then we have the awesome dies. Now, these dies on their own are fantastic, even without the stamp set, okay? I am a sucker for word dies. So we have 3 words in this set. We have inspire, forever, and adventure. And then we have this awesome tree branch, which is super detailed. We have this dandelion die cut. Okay, so that is the set of dies, and then the stamp set. So either of these work really well on their own, but combined they just give you limitless possibilities. So that's the bundle, but I also want to show you this gorgeous paper. So I've just cut this down to 6x6 pieces just to make it easier to show you. So on one side of the DSP, we have these sort of watercolory looking, more solid color images, or patterns, I guess I should say. Now these were made using the new pigment sprinkles, okay? So they coordinate with those, and they have the look of that without the mess, okay? If you are familiar with the pigment sprinkles, they're really fun to use. But they can be a little bit messy. So this paper gives you the look without the mess. Oh, hi Heather and hi Wendy. How are you guys doing? Hope you're having a good day. So I'm just showcasing the Sia Silhouette DSP. So this is the one side, okay, more solid. And then when I flip it over, we get some awesome bold patterns on the other side. So we have this sort of mosaic pattern. We have this sort of wave pattern. We've got florals. We've got leaves, we've got a herringbone, and then we've got hexagon mosaic. So this paper, if you are not into really big, bold patterns, this side is for you, okay? It's got something for everybody, and I gotta tell you, I have been using this paper a lot. So we're gonna feature that on our projects today. So I'm gonna set that aside. The first project we're going to work on is super simple, okay? This for me is a crazy simple project. Oh, hi Debbie, how are you? How's the weather in Edmonton? I hope it's not too hot. It is hot and humid here. So this project, it almost is not a me project, okay? I am all about my embellishments and my ribbon, but I have to tell you, this sparkly embossing powder and this gorgeous paper just make this card a wow without even needing ribbon and embellishments. So I'm going to show you how I did this. It's really straightforward. For those of you that are new to heat embossing, I'm going to give you a few little tips for success. So I'm going to pull my card kit in. And my little basket of goodies here. All right. So Wendy, this is a super simple card, okay? But I didn't use the pigment sprinkles. This is the DSP from this suite. So the DSP comes already gorgeous like this, all right? So from my kit, I've taken my DSP, and before we stamp, we are going to use our embossing buddy, okay? Now this is an important tool if you are going to emboss, okay? When I first started stamping, I fell in love with heat embossing. Absolutely, like, was hook, line, and sinker in love with it. Oh, it's hot and not too hot, a bit cloudy, lots of rain. Oh, you'll get the humidity as well. I'm sure you will, Debbie. We're supposed to get some rain and cool off a little bit, I hope, later in the week. So now back to the embossing buddy. So as I mentioned, I fell in love with heat embossing, but I did not purchase an embossing buddy. I got the heat tool, I got the Versamark, I got all the embossing powders, I was ready to go, but I didn't get an embossing buddy. Didn't think I needed it. Well, then I tried heat embossing on some of my projects, and I was not happy with the results. I was not getting nice crisp images. I was getting stray embossing powder in places I didn't want it. And I got really frustrated because, well, I wasn't getting the look that I really wanted. So somebody told me that I needed an embossing buddy. And once I discovered it, I realized why. So it looks like a little pillow. It's filled with powder. And what I'm going to do is just rub this all over my piece of DSP. And you'll notice that I'm trying not to handle my DSP too much. Okay, it's just sitting on my work surface. And once I've done my embossing buddy, I want to not touch this until after I have applied my embossing powder. Okay, so now when we're heat embossing, we need to use a sticky ink. So I am using Versamark. And I have my image of the couple under the umbrella. So I'm going to ink that up, and you want to make sure you're inking generously, and you're going to see, I hope that shows up, that my image is getting kind of glossy there, or my stamp. That's the Versamark ink. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this to one side and right near the bottom on my DSP. And peel that off, and I'm not sure if it shows, but there is a ghosted image there. You can see the image in the Versamark. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my tray. This is a tray that I've had forever. I think I got it at a dollar store years ago. Remember when I said I fell in love with heat embossing and got all the stuff? I picked this up, I think, at a dollar store. So that was a long time ago. Now this is the new shimmery black embossing powder. Can you see the sparkle in that? Does it show? Oh, yes, it does. Look at that. So we're going to sprinkle this all over our stamped image. Look at that. Oh, it's magical. And tap off the excess. And you'll see that that powder has only stuck to my embossed image. That's because I used my embossing buddy. With powder, especially with black, I find you can get little flecks of it in places that you don't want it. And it makes your image look less than crisp. So I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to bring in my heat tool. Now, normally, is the black, I don't think the black is back ordered. Heather, I have to double check. I haven't looked in the last couple of days. The white, maybe the black was and the white was on low inventory. I can't remember. One was back order, one was on low inventory. So I haven't checked in the last couple of days. So it is possible that it is still on back order, but you can order it and get in the queue, and it will ship to you as soon as it comes in stock. All right, so I'm going to bring in my heat tool. This is a Stampin' Up heat tool, okay? It has two settings. It has a low setting for drying ink and then a high setting for heat embossing. So when you're heat embossing, you want to make sure you push that little button all the way down to make sure it heats up enough to melt the embossing powder. Now, I'm not going to be able to talk while this is working because it is kind of loud. So I'm going to just go ahead and tell you a couple of tips. When you're holding your heat tool, you don't want to hold it down at this end. It's going to get very hot. So you want to hold it in the middle. The other thing is you don't want to hold it at this end and cover up the fan because that will cause it to overheat. Okay, I've seen people hold it here and then their heat tool will shut off. It has a fuse in it that if it gets too hot, it shuts off, and that's just a safety thing. So when you're holding it, you want to hold it in the middle, and you're going to hold it about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches above your image. Okay, and what you don't want to do is go back and forth like a blow dryer. Okay, I see a lot of people doing this, and what happens is you get uneven heating. You'll get some areas that don't set completely, and then you'll get others that are overheated and scorched. And what happens when you scorch your embossing is it gets dull and it doesn't have the nice shine to it. So the best way to do it is to hold it in one spot until you start to see the powder set, and once it starts to melt, you can start moving it gradually across your image. Okay. None of this back and forth hairdryer thing, okay? You're gonna get much better results if you just go slowly across your image. So here we go. There we are. Did you see that going? Isn't it cool? I could watch that all day. I just think it's positively magical. So there is my set image, and you'll see it is just so pretty with that shimmer in there. Okay. All right. Now let's do some assembly. So here I have a piece of basic black cardstock. It is cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. Oh, I forgot to mention, this piece is 4 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches. Okay, so 4 by 3 3/4. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I should mention also that I have already run my black piece through the Big Shot using the Scripty 3D embossing folder. Okay, and it's got that lovely love poetry, which I thought worked rather well for this image. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and it's going to get glued sort of centered on my black panel. So we'll just add a little bit of fast fuse. You're going to want to use a fairly strong adhesive once you've heat embossed on your DSP, because it does buckle a little bit from the heat. So you want to make sure it's stuck down well and is going to stay put and not wrinkle and buckle. Okay, so we'll just center that right about there. Okay, burnish that from the back. Hey Kathy, how are you? All right, now we are going to do our sentiment. So what I did here, I kind of wanted it to look like, I kind of was thinking that like this was hugging the couple. I don't know. It just, my brain works in weird ways. So that's what I was going for. So what I did is I started with a die cut stitched rectangle. So this is using the stitched rectangle dies. Okay. And then I took my sentiment, which says together is the perfect place to be. I stamped it in Memento Black. So I'm going to stamp it towards the right edge of my little stitched rectangle here. And hopefully get it relatively straight. That's not too bad. Then I'm going to bring in my crushed curry ink. And what did I do with my, there it is. It was in another kit. This is a little sort of stardust image from one of my new favorite sets called Stargazing. This set works beautifully with the Silhouette Scenes set, okay? The sentiments work well together, as does the imagery. I'm going to use this on another project that we're going to do in a few minutes. So this is this little sort of stardust image, and I'm just going to kind of stamp it just sort of in the top corner and then kind of coming down across the bottom like that. Okay, so we'll close this up. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this on to my panel. I'm not going to cut this off just yet. I'm going to use a little bit of Tombow here just so I have my extra wiggle time. And I'm going to put this pretty close to my gentleman and just stick that right there. Okay. Then I'm going to take and flip that panel over and cut off the excess using my paper snips. So if you use the edge of the panel as a guide, it's easy to get that straight. Okay, and then this other piece I'm going to glue on the other side. So if you'll notice what I've done here, I've got my piece right lined up with one of the lines on the grid paper so that when I go to glue this one on, it's easy to get it at the same height. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of Tombow on here, maybe a little bit more than that. There we go. And I'm going to adhere that just right up to her foot. And again, I'm going to use the lines on my grid paper just to make sure that that's straight. Okay, and then again, I'm going to flip that over and trim off the excess. So you can get this look with just one single die cut rectangle. Okay, I still have more that I could use on something else. Isn't that simple, but really, really cool. Hi, Deneen, how are you doing? How are things in Virginia? All right, so now I have my card base. This is thick Whisper White cardstock. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and it's scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold that in half along the score line. And then I'm ready to go ahead and adhere my card front to my card base. Oh, Fast Fuse is getting a little carried away today. Or actually, it's me that's getting carried away. I'm going too fast. Oh, you know what? It is really humid and my paper is a little on the moist side, so I'm actually going to just use some Tombow today because my paper is just ripping. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and glue this panel onto my card front like that. Okay. And the trick when you're using Tombow is to make sure that you burnish it really well, just to make sure that glue spreads and you get good adhesion. All right. Oh, it's hot. It's hot here too, Janine. Hot, hot, hot. Okay, now I'm going to do my magical little trick. I'm actually going to do this on every single one because I think this looks really good with this DSP. So you've seen me do this before. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella and I'm just going to flick it right across this card front here and add some more shimmer. It's really going to show up nicely on the black background, but it shows up quite nicely on the DSP as well. Okay, I'm not sure how well that's going to show on the video, but that adds some lovely shimmer, additional shimmer on top of the stamped image. Okay. All right, now I am going to stamp the inside of this one because this is a really simple card and I have the time. So on the inside, I used a sentiment from that Stargazing set, okay, which it's just perfect with this sentiment from the Silhouette Scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp, I thank my lucky stars for you, right inside my card. So we'll just ink it up with some black ink here. And open up our card and just stamp that right in the middle. Just like that. And then we're going to pull back that crushed curry ink and that Stardust image again. Yeah, I've got a dehumidifier too, Heather. It just needs to be emptied. It's not running right now because it's full. And I haven't gotten around to emptying it today. So it is a little on the humid side here. All right, so there is my Stardust image. I just inked it up in the crushed curry and stamped it right over top of my sentiment. And it's a really pretty look. So isn't that a nice card? Super simple, but just, oh, so pretty. All right, so now we're gonna get some of these things out of the way and move on to card number 2. Get the embossing buddy out of here. All right, set that one aside. Woo! There goes my stamp set. All right, let's move that aside and we're gonna move on to this one. I love this card. I know several people for whom this card would be absolutely perfect. I have some friends who are huge travelers and this card was kind of made with them in mind. So when I looked at this DSP, it reminded me of satellite imagery of the globe. So you know when you look at some satellite images of the Earth and you see like the green where the land is and the ocean and the snow on mountains and whatnot, and that's exactly what this paper reminded me of. Okay. Hey Susan, how are ya? How's life in BC? Okay, so this paper just reminds me of that satellite imagery. So I thought it would be perfect with this particular sentiment. So I'm going to start with my label and I'm going to bring in my silhouette image. So this could be a boy, could be a girl with an airplane. And we're going to ink that up in the Night of Navy. Now with these silhouette images, you want to make sure you get really good ink coverage, okay? You're going to get your best results if you have really good ink coverage. Now, if you are still working with the old linen pads, you're going to find it hard to get a really nice, solid, crisp image with the linen pads, just because of the nature of the pad. It's not impossible, but it is harder. So if you have an old linen pad, what you're going to want to do is press and twist the stamp into the pad, okay? And that's going to give you better coverage. Okay, so there is our boy with plain. Next, we have this sentiment. So the sentiment says, life was meant for good friends and great adventures. But I don't want the word adventures because I've got my die cut adventure. So I am going to use my magical black Stampin' Right marker to ink my stamp, and I'm going to omit the word adventures. So when you are using markers to ink your stamp, you want to use the flat side of the brush tip. Okay, that's the way you're going to get your best coverage. All right, if you're trying to color the letters, it's going to take you a while. I actually had somebody trying to use the fine tip once. Not going to work. All right, so now once I've inked that, I'm going to huff on it, and that's just going to re-moisten the ink. And I'm going to attempt to stamp this straight. I am not looking straight on, so this could be an interesting, oh, that was actually pretty good. It's always questionable whether or not it's going to work when I'm stamping off to the side like that. All right, so now I have my beautiful DSP. This has got the leaf pattern on the back side, okay? And I've cut this to 5 1/4 by 4. And then I have a stitched circle. So this is from the Stitch Shapes dies. It's the largest circle. And I've cut it from gold foil. And then I ran it through my Big Shot with the subtle embossing folder. And oh my stars, isn't that pretty? I love this look. So I'm going to glue this on, and I'm going to glue it so it's just extending off the edge ever so slightly. And again, that's just to help ground my design. So if you are designing and you just can't quite get it right, it could be because your images or your elements are floating. And when you're trying to avoid that look, the best way to ground your design is to have your elements all touching each other and have one of them touching the edge. Okay. Oh, isn't the subtle on the foil gorgeous? I know, look at that. And think of all the beautiful foil we have. We've got the peacock foils and all those beautiful colors. Can't wait to try that too. All right, so I've glued that on just with a little bit of Tombow. I'm gonna take my snips and trim off the bit that's extruding or protruding off the edge. There we go. All right, and then I have my stamped label. That's going to get glued on, again, flat. And I'm avoiding my fast fuse today just because it doesn't want to behave in the humidity. So we'll just use a bit of Tombow on there. And again, use your grid paper to your advantage to help you get your images straight, your elements on your cards straight. Okay, now here, let me just pull this out of my little baggie here. I have die cut the word adventure using those beautiful dies that I showed you earlier. I've cut it from gold foil, and I actually applied, I still have a stash of the multi-purpose adhesive sheets, because let's be honest, that is the easiest way to adhere die cut words. So I actually am probably responsible for them selling out before the end of the catalog last May, because I kind of stocked up and I'm hoarding them. I'm sorry. If you're in a real pinch, let me know, and I may just be able to spare some for you. Okay, so I'm going to just adhere this right to my DSP. Okay, and don't worry that that extends off the edge. It's okay, because my I've got a card base yet that's going to go on. Okay, so there is my die cut word. Speaking of my card base, here it is. It's Night of Navy. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 11. Scored in the middle at 5 1/2. I'm going to fold it in half along the score line. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Tombow. Okay, and I just want to point out how little glue I'm using. I know some of us are in denial of the fact that Tombow is very, very strong. You do not need to use a lot of Tombow to make your projects hold together. And in fact, less is more. You're going to get better results and be happier with the look if you use a little bit less. All right, so there is my almost finished card front. Now I'm going to bring in a little bit. Where did my ribbon go? Did that go flying? Where, oh where, there it is. Has my ribbon gone? Okay, so this is some of that beautiful denim look ribbon. This is not actual denim. It's much more pliable and supple. Oh, you bought lots of too, did you, Wendy? Yeah, that stuff is just, it's magical when it comes to applying die cuts. Okay, so this ribbon is faux denim. It's not actual jean material, but it has that look. But it ties up beautifully. Okay, so I'm not actually going to do a bow. I wanted this to be a little bit more masculine, so I just tied a knot. And I really worked hard to keep it a nice square knot. Okay, so I didn't let my ribbon twist at all. And then I'm going to just cut off the spool here. And I like, when I do this, it's almost like a faux bow. If I notch the ends, it almost looks bow-like, but it's not quite as girly as an actual bow. Okay, and then I'm just going to adhere that to my card with a glue dot. Just like that. All right, done and done. Now, Actually, I shouldn't say done, because I need to do my magical Wink of Stella trick. This just, I don't know, it just really, really works with this paper. I really like the look. So if you want to add really subtle shimmer and just a little bit extra texture to your projects, you just do the little flicky with your Wink of Stella, and it's quite magical. Okay? It probably doesn't show on the camera, but trust me, you have to take my word for it. Okay? All right, now on the inside of this, I stamped my little guy with the plane again, and I used another one of the sentiments from the stamp set that says keep dreaming. All right? Okay, so that is card number 2. Now I'm so excited about this next one. This is a fun fold that I saw for the first time on the incentive trip. Okay? So this, it blew my mind, honestly, and I came home and I tried for days to figure out how it was done, and I couldn't figure it out. Finally, somebody took pity on us and posted a link to a tutorial video so we could recreate it. But this card starts out as a portrait, sort of gatefold look, okay, but it's a gatefold on a diagonal. So I open it. When I open it, whoa, look at that. Is that not magical? It goes to landscape. Let me do that again. So this tucks in here to hold it in place. Okay, so there's my portrait card. And then I pull this out. Oh, and then it's going to sit on the desk, landscape. Is that not the coolest thing ever? I know, Heather. Wow is right. That's exactly what I said the first time I saw it. And this is so easy. So easy I couldn't figure it out on my own. Much cardstock was wasted in the days following the incentive trip because I was desperate to figure this out. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Are you excited? I'm excited. Let me pull in my kit and my trimmer. Now I've kind of cheated and I've already done all my cutting and scoring, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay. I'll just pretend to do it even though I've already done it. All right, so you're going to start with 2 pieces of cardstock. So I use Night of Navy. So you're going to need 1 full sheet of cardstock to make one of these cards. Okay, so you're going to cut your cardstock to, let me just double check my measurements to make sure I don't tell you the wrong thing. So first thing you're going to do is cut your cardstock to 10 1/4 inches long. Okay, so 10 1/4 inches long. And then these are each 4 inches wide. Okay, so 4 inches by 10 1/4. You're going to score each one of your pieces at 5 1/2, just as though you were doing a regular card. All right, so I've got this one. Can you see that? Here, I'll fold it a little bit so you can see it. Okay, so I've got this one scored at 5 1/2 and this one scored at 5 1/2. All right, now this is the important step. So when I look at this, I have my 5 1/2 inch piece here, and then I have a shorter piece. Okay, it's 4 and something. All right, so I'm going to take that end. Here's my vertical score line. I'm going to insert it into my trimmer. I'm just going to close that for a minute. I'm going to insert it into my trimmer at 4 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to use a pencil. Pretend I have a pencil. Here, I'll use my marker. I'm going to just put a little pencil mark at 4 inches, at where my cutting groove is. Okay, so I put my end in here, and I'm putting just a little tick where my cutting groove is. Okay, I'm going to do that on both pieces. Okay, so same thing here. Insert it to 4 inches. Put a little tick where the cutting groove is. You with me so far? Can you see that? Yeah, I'm okay. I want to make sure you can see what I was doing there up at the top. Okay, so far so good. All right, so I've got my little tick in there. Then I'm going to turn my cardstock. So again, this is on that same short piece, and I'm going to line here. I'll do it on the one that I actually put a tick on. I'm going to line my little tick and the corner of my cardstock up on the cutting groove. Okay, so there's my little pencil mark, and there is the corner of my cardstock. I'm going to close my trimmer, and I'm going to score on a diagonal. Okay, can you see that? Does that show? I hope so. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on both pieces. So now I have 2 pieces that are scored on the diagonal. All right, I'm going to get my trimmer out of the way. So here I have my 2 pieces. They're identical. Long side here, shorter side with the diagonal score here. Okay, so I'm going to take and flip my bottom one over. So here I have, there's my 2 pieces, okay? My score line is on the diagonal. My triangle's here. I'm folding that back. My other one is down at the bottom corner. I'm folding that back. Okay, so now my pieces look like this. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my bone folder, crisp up all these folds, make sure that they're nice and flat. Okay, and then I can go ahead and glue this on. All right, so we're gonna glue this guy on here. And again, I wanna make sure that my pieces line up so that it looks like a single layer. Okay, and then when I fold that shut, this is the way my card base is going to work. All right, you got that? Oh, Wendy, I'm so glad I make you feel better. You hang around with me, I will make you feel really, really good about yourself, because some days, today is one of those days, to be honest, nothing has gone according to plan today. What can you do? All right, so to decorate this, I started with a Whisper White square that is, I believe, 3 and, what are we here? 1, 2, 3.5 inches. Okay, so 3.5 inches, and then I cut it on the diagonal. And then I have a 3¼ inch square of that beautiful DSP that, again, I cut on a diagonal. And then when I layer them, you see how that's going to layer on there and give me a nice white border all the way around? So there are my triangles, and I am then going to go ahead and adhere them to those triangles on the front of my card. And again, I'm going to have, I'll just lift that up so you can see. Do you see the narrow little border of blue all the way around? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that. Now I will put all of these measurements in the video description for you once I'm done shooting this, okay? So I'll go back in and edit and add all of the measurements so you don't have to be jotting the measurements down as you're watching this video. Okay, and then we're going to add our other triangle on this side. My eyesight, I tell you, I have to lift this up to be able to get see where I can't do tone on tone. So the blue against the blue, not so good anymore for me. All right, so there is my center square. Okay. And then I have these 2 little strips. So this is a great way. When I was cutting this, I actually used this as a make and take at my team training this month. And I had all these extra little bits. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to throw them out, because when I cut them, I can use them as little trim pieces on that background. So that's what I did. So these are 1/2 inch by 4. And I'm going to go ahead and glue them, one on the top. And they're the same width as the card, right? So they're going to be flush with the edges, but I'll have a little bit of a border above and below. And then the other one's going to go down at the bottom. Just like this. There we go. Okay. Isn't that pretty? It's pretty just like that. All right, so now we're going to stamp our focal image. So here I have a square that is, I think it's 2 7/8 if I remember correctly. And actually you could cut this. It's the largest square from the layering squares dies, but if you don't have those, you can just cut a 2 7/8 inch square. And I'm going to bring in my basic black. Actually, I'm going to start with my background. Where did my stamps go? Where? Oh, where? There they are. I didn't even bring my bin over here yet. All right, so I'm going to start with this Stardust image that is from that beautiful Stargazing stamp set. And I'm inking with Blueberry Bushel, okay? It's just a little bit lighter than the Night of Navy, and I just like that it stood out a little bit from my background. Now, when you are inking this stamp, this is one of those distinctive stamps, and if you look, do you see how there's not much ink going on in the middle there? That it's supposed to be that way, okay? Look when I stamp this. Do you see how it's lighter in the middle? Okay, when you look up at the Milky Way, you see lights and darks, right? So don't worry that middle of the stamp isn't inking, okay? It's supposed to be that way. So now I'm just going to stamp just that upper corner, okay? Isn't that beautiful? Oh, I love that image. I've got big plans for this stamp at Christmas time, I tell ya. All right, so we're going to set that aside. Then I'm going to bring in my girl. I think she's a girl. Could be a boy with long hair. And my Memento Black. Now this, okay, here's a good example. Okay, this is a linen pad. It is possible to get a good image. First of all, my pad is very juicy. Okay, I've really inked it well. And as I'm inking, I'm kind of twisting the stamp into the pad. Okay, and that's going to distribute the ink a little bit more evenly. So now I'm going to stamp my little girl here. She's reaching for the stars. Just like that. Okay. And then we are going to glue this onto a 3-inch square of silver foil. Okay, so remember I said this was 2 7/8. This one is 3 inches, and it's going to give you just a narrow little border all the way around. So we'll just throw a bit of Tombow on here. Thanks, Sue. Glad you like it. Sorry about my screw up. You picked a good day to watch. All right, so we're going to go ahead and adhere this. Now, this is an important step, so pay attention, okay? When we are gluing this onto the front of our card, we are not going to put glue all over this square. Why is that, do you think? Because if we do that, we're going to glue our card shut. Okay, so this is going to get centered on this center square, but I'm only going to put my adhesive sort of right here. Okay, so kind of right there. No more than that. All right, so now I can go ahead and center my image on that square. Straight is always better than not. Okay, and just give it a second to set up, and then I have a card that will open. All right. Okay, now for our little label, if I bring in the original, you could do a couple of things to keep this card closed. You could use a belly band for sure to keep this closed. I decided to do like a little latch here. So I used my label as a latch that I could tuck that focal image into to help it to lie flat. So I have this little bitty stitch nested label. And I need my Keep Dreaming stamp from the previous card. Where did I put that? Or maybe I didn't use it on the last card. I used it on... Yes, I did. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that in the Memento Black. So we'll ink that up, and we are going to attempt to stamp this straight while on camera and looking at a diagonal. Well, just hope and pray. Oh, it's smeared. Let's flip that over and try again. It would have been good if it hadn't smudged. Let's try that again. Much better. Okay. So now, when I go to stick this onto my card, once again, I am not going to put dimensionals all over the back of this and stick it on. Okay, I'm going to create the same problem. Oh, thanks, Julie. Glad you like this card. You're tuning in late. You missed my screw up. So I'm glad you like it. When you watch the replay, just fast forward a little bit and you'll miss my big mix up. So to adhere this, first of all, for it to be a latch, it needs to be popped up. Okay, so I'm going to use some dimensionals. I'm actually going to use minis, and I'm going to put one mini right here next to the silver, but not on it. Okay, so this is lying flat. I'm putting my mini dimensional right up next to that silver piece, but not on it. And then I'm going to put another one along the bottom and one more right beside it. Okay, so that is going to ensure that I'm not sticking my card shut. Okay, so now I'm going to peel my backings off and I'm going to adhere my little label. Now it's okay that this extends a little bit because remember how I mentioned this card is 4 inches wide instead of 4 1/4. So I have a little bit of room on this side, so and it will still fit into the label, or into the envelope rather. Okay, so there's my label. It acts as a latch to hold my card down. Okay, and again, we are going to do our Wink of Stella trick and add a little sparkle all over the front of this card. My wink is getting a little dry. It's not spattering quite as much as it was. Okay, now the last little bit on the front, I punched some silver stars from silver foil using my Twinkle Twinkle, Little Twinkle, that punch that has the moon and the stars. Can't remember what it's called. I think it's Little Twinkle or something like that. So when you're gluing these little bitty things on, put a little dot of glue where you want the item to go, and then drop the item on top. Don't try and get glue on that little tiny star, okay? Especially these little ones. So we'll put another one here, little dab of glue, and we'll drop, oh, I missed. We'll drop that guy on top of there. And then another little dab of glue on the label. Come on. This always happens when I want just a little dab and I'm trying to squeeze. And you know what happens? You get a big blob. All right, there we go. So we're just gonna give that a second to set up. Okay, and that's really the front of the card done. Now I am gonna stamp the inside just because it really works better if you see the inside. So the trick with this, there is a little trick, because when you open this card, it goes from portrait to landscape. You have to stamp the inside piece landscape. Okay, so here I have a piece of Whisper White. It is cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And what did I do on the inside of this one? I did, if you can dream it, you can do, if you dream it, you can do it. Okay, and I actually designed this card for my team girls to make as a little reminder that anything is possible. I never, ever, ever imagined I would earn the Stampin' Up! Incentive trip. Never in a million years. And then a couple years ago, I started to see the possibilities, and it was still kind of a dream. And lo and behold, I'm just fresh back off the boat. So anything is possible, and I wanted to remind my team girls of that. So that was why I designed this card. So here I have that Stardust image again that we used on the first card. I've inked it in the blueberry bushel. I'm going to stamp off once and then just stamp it behind my image. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I just love that. All right, so that is going to get glued inside our card. So we'll just put a bit of Tombow on there. And we'll pop this inside our card. Hopefully our stars are dry. And just remember which way your card is going to be oriented. So you want to make sure you don't put this in upside down. So you're just going to glue that centered inside the card, just like that. Done and done. Is that not the coolest fold? Like, I just love that. You're going to be seeing a lot of this one from me because I just think it's so neat now that I finally know how to do it. All right, so that is it. I'm just going to pull in our other projects, clean up my mess here. Let's just tuck that guy in there. So there is 1, there is 2, and there is 3. Beautiful projects, super easy. This one is not hard either. It's nothing fancy. It's just got a really cool fold, but made wows with that awesome DSP. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have an awesome week, and I will see you next week for another Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.